don't wake the baby. How many times have you heard that? Or maybe you've been the one saying it, tiptoeing around your house like a ninja, terrified that the slightest sound will ruin your little one's precious sleep. But what if I told you that all that sneaking around might actually be doing more harm than good? That's right, contrary to popular belief, babies don't need complete silence to thrive. In fact, a bit of noise might be exactly what they need. Intrigued? Well, stick around, because I'm about to share a personal story that completely changed how I approach my baby's sleep environment. Plus, I'll reveal some surprising research that might just revolutionize your parenting approach. Trust me, you won't want to miss this. It all started on a typical Caribbean afternoon. The sun was blazing, and I had just put my 3-month-old daughter Amaya down for her nap. I was exhausted, desperately needing a break, when suddenly my neighbor's sound system started blasting reggae music. My heart sank. No, I thought, rushing to close all the windows. But it was too late. The bass was thumping through the walls, and I was sure Amaya would wake up any second, screaming her little lungs out. But here's the thing, she didn't. In fact, she slept peacefully through the entire 2-hour impromptu concert. I couldn't believe it. How was this possible? This unexpected nap time miracle got me thinking. Could it be that all my efforts to create a silent sanctuary for Amaya were unnecessary? Maybe even counterproductive? I decided to do some digging, and what I discovered blew my mind. But before I share that, let me ask you this. Have you ever noticed how some babies can sleep through almost anything, while others wake at the slightest sound? Well, it turns out there might be a reason for that, and it has everything to do with their early sound experiences. You see, studies show that gentle background sounds like white noise can help some babies sleep better by masking noises that might wake them. The Journal of Clinical Sleep Medicine even found that white noise helps some infants fall asleep faster and reduces disturbances. But that's not all. Early exposure to a mix of sounds like speech and music helps babies start picking up on different patterns, which is key for language development. Research from Cool and Saffran shows that these diverse sounds are crucial for building those first listening and language skills. Now, I know what you're thinking. But what about all those times I've tiptoed around trying not to wake my baby? Well, my friend, you're not alone. I've been there too. But here's where things get really interesting. Remember how I mentioned that Caribbean afternoon with the blasting reggae? Well, that was just the beginning of my journey into understanding the power of noise for babies. The next day, I decided to conduct a little experiment. Instead of trying to keep things quiet during Amaya's nap time, I left the windows open, allowing the sounds of our bustling neighborhood to filter in. The result? She slept just as well as she had during the reggae concert. Encouraged by this, I started incorporating more ambient noise into our daily routine. I'd do the dishes while she napped, chat with my husband in a normal voice, even watch TV at a moderate volume. And you know what? Amaya didn't just tolerate these noises, she seemed to thrive on them. But here's where things get really exciting. As Amaya grew, I noticed something remarkable. She seemed more adaptable than other babies her age. She could sleep anywhere, at noisy family gatherings, in bustling restaurants, even at the beach with waves crashing nearby. It was as if the varied soundscape of her early months had prepared her for anything. Now I know you're probably eager to start implementing this in your own home. But before you crank up the volume, there's something important you need to know. While noise can be beneficial for babies, it's all about balance. Too much noise, especially at high volumes, can still be harmful. So, how do you create that perfect auditory environment for your little one? Well, that's exactly what I'm going to share with you next. But first, let me tell you about a conversation I had with my grandmother that added a whole new dimension to this noise theory. You see, in our Caribbean culture, babies are often in the thick of things from day one. They're present at family gatherings, taken to markets, and generally exposed to a rich tapestry of sounds. When I told my grandmother about my noise discovery, she just laughed and said, "Child, we've known this for generations." She went on to tell me how, in her day, mothers would often hang wind chimes near their babies' cribs. The gentle tinkling was believed to soothe the baby and promote good sleep. But more than that, it was thought to sharpen the baby's senses and make them more aware of their environment. This got me thinking about how we can intentionally create a stimulating yet soothing auditory environment for our babies. And that's exactly what I want to share with you now. First and foremost, it's important to understand that not all noise is created equal. When it comes to beneficial noise for babies, we're talking about moderate, ambient sounds, not loud, jarring noises. Think of it as creating a gentle soundscape rather than a cacophony. One easy way to do this is by using white noise machines or apps. These devices produce a consistent, soothing sound that can mask sudden noises that might startle your baby. But don't stop there. Remember, variety is key. Try incorporating different types of sounds into your baby's environment. Soft music, nature sounds, or even the hum of household appliances can all contribute to a rich auditory landscape. The key is to keep the volume at a moderate level. Aim for about 50 decibels, which is roughly the volume of a quiet conversation. But here's where it gets really interesting. As your baby grows, you can start to introduce more varied and complex sounds. This is where that auditory discrimination we talked about earlier comes into play. For instance, you might play different genres of music during playtime. One day it could be classical, the next reggae, and maybe some pop. This exposure to different types of sounds helps your baby's brain learn to process and distinguish between various auditory stimuli. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, but what about nighttime? Surely babies need quiet to sleep. Well, you might be surprised. Many babies actually sleep better with some background noise. It mimics the sounds they heard in the womb, which can be incredibly comforting. In fact, this brings me to a Caribbean remedy that's been passed down through generations. My grandmother taught me about the rain bottle, a simple device made by filling a bottle with dried beans or rice. When gently shaken, it produces a sound similar to falling rain. Many Caribbean parents use this to help soothe their babies to sleep. But let's get back to our noise experiment. As Amaya continued to grow, I noticed something fascinating. Not only was she sleeping well and adapting to various environments, but her language development seemed to be advancing rapidly too. At 18 months, she was already stringing together simple sentences, and her vocabulary was expanding daily. Could this be related to her early exposure to a variety of sounds? Well, according to recent research, the answer is likely yes. Studies have shown that babies who are exposed to a rich auditory environment from an early age tend to develop stronger language skills. The theory is that this exposure helps wire the brain for processing and producing speech sounds. But here's the really exciting part. This benefit isn't limited to language development. Research published in Psychology Today and Big Think indicate that babies raised in environments with varied auditory stimuli, such as bilingual households or moderately noisy settings, show improved cognitive skills across the board. They tend to be more curious, more adaptable, and better at problem solving. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. This all sounds great, but what if I live in a really noisy area? Is there such a thing as too much noise? That's an excellent question, and it brings us to an important point. While moderate noise can be beneficial, excessive noise can indeed be harmful. Prolonged exposure to loud noises above 80 decibels can damage a baby's delicate hearing. So, if you live in a particularly noisy area, you might need to take some steps to manage the sound levels in your home. This is where the concept of sound management comes in. It's not about eliminating all noise, but rather about creating a balanced auditory environment. Here are a few tips. Use thick curtains or blinds to muffle outside noise. Place rugs or carpets to absorb sound within the room. Position the crib or bed away from outside walls if you live in a noisy area. Use a white noise machine to create a consistent background sound that can mask sudden loud noises. But what if you're in a situation where you can't control the noise levels? Say, for instance, you're traveling or attending a family gathering. This is where our noise training really pays off. Remember how I mentioned that Amaya could sleep through almost anything? Well, this adaptability came in handy countless times. Whether we were at a crowded airport or a lively family dinner, Amaya was able to rest when she needed to, unbothered by the commotion around her. This adaptability isn't just about sleep, though. It extends to all aspects of life. Babies who are accustomed to a variety of sounds tend to be less easily startled or upset by unexpected noises. They're often more comfortable in new environments and situations, which can make life easier for the whole family. Now, I want to share a little anecdote that really drove home the benefits of this approach for me. When Amaya was about 2 years old, we took a trip to visit family in Jamaica. The flight was long, and I was worried about how she would handle it. As we boarded the plane, I could see other parents struggling with crying, fussy babies. But Amaya, she settled into her seat, unfazed by the engine noise or the chatter of other passengers. She played quietly with her toys, had a snack, and then drifted off to sleep as naturally as if she were in her own bed. The woman sitting next to us was amazed. "How did you get her to be so calm?" she asked. I smiled and told her about our noise-friendly approach to parenting. She was fascinated and admitted she'd always tried to keep things as quiet as possible for her own children. This interaction made me realize how much this approach had transformed our lives. Not only was Amaya thriving, but we as parents were more relaxed too. We didn't have to constantly worry about maintaining perfect silence or tiptoeing around our own home. But here's the thing, it's never too late to start. Even if your baby is a bit older, you can still gradually introduce more ambient noise into their environment. Start slowly, perhaps with soft background music during playtime, and gradually increase the variety of sounds over time. Remember, every baby is unique, and what works for one might not work for another. The key is to observe your baby's reactions and adjust accordingly. Some babies might prefer certain types of sounds over others, and that's perfectly okay. The goal isn't to create a noisy environment for the sake of noise, but rather to expose your baby to a rich, varied soundscape that will support their development in multiple ways. So, the next time you find yourself whispering around your sleeping baby or stressing about maintaining perfect silence, take a deep breath and remember, a little noise might be just what your baby needs. From improved sleep to enhanced cognitive development, the benefits of a moderately noisy environment are too significant to ignore. By embracing this approach, you're not just making your life easier as a parent, you're giving your baby a head start in navigating the wonderfully noisy world around them. And isn't that what parenting is all about? Preparing our little ones for the world they'll grow up in, while making the journey as enjoyable as possible for everyone involved. So go ahead, turn on that music, have that conversation, let those pots clang as you cook dinner. Your baby might just thank you for it someday. And hey, if you found this information helpful, why not check out some of our other videos? We've got plenty more parenting tips and insights to share. From Caribbean remedies to modern research, we're here to help you navigate the wonderful, sometimes noisy world of parenting. Until next time, keep those good vibes flowing.